For the 1936–1939 Spanish Civil War units, see Louise Michel battalions. For the Paris Métro station, see Louise Michel. Louise Michel (1830–1905) was a French anarchist, schoolteacher, medical worker, and important figure in the Paris Commune. She often used the pseudonym Clémence and was also known as the Red Virgin of Montmartre. Journalist Brian Doherty has called her the French Grande Dame of Anarchy. Yale historian John Merriman said, "She embraced the cause of women's rights, proclaiming that one could not separate the caste of women from humanity." Biography. Louise Michel was born at the Château of Vroncourt on 29 May 1830, the illegitimate daughter of a serving maid, Marianne Michel, and the chatelain, Etienne Charles de Mahiz. She was brought up by her mother and her father's parents near the village of Vroncourt-le-Côte and received a liberal education. She became interested in traditional customs, folk myths and legends. After her grandfather's death in 1850 she was trained to teach, but her refusal to acknowledge Napoleon III prevented her from serving in a state school. She became violently anti-Bonapartist, and is even said to have contemplated the assassination of Napoleon III. In 1866 she found her way to a school in the Montmartre quarter of Paris, where she threw herself ardently into works of charity and revolutionary politics. In 1866 a feminist group called the Société pour la Revendication du Droit des Femmes began to meet at the house of André Elie Couteau. Members included Paul Mink, Louise Michel, Elisco Vincent, Elie Reclus, and his wife Naomi, Jules Simon and Caroline de Barrow. Maria de Resmes also participated. Because of the broad range of opinions, the group decided to focus on the subject of improving girls' education. Paris. During the Paris Commune of 1871, she was active as an ambulance woman treating those injured on the barricades. During the Siege of Paris she untiringly preached resistance against the Prussians. On the establishment of the Commune, she joined the National Guard. She offered to shoot tears, and suggested the destruction of Paris by way of vengeance for its surrender. She was with the Communists who made the last stand in the cemetery of Montmartre, and was closely allied with Théophile Ferré, who was executed in November 1871. Michel dedicated a moving farewell poem to Ferré, L'Île Rouge. Upon learning of this loss, Victor Hugo dedicated his poem Viro Major to Michel. This ardent attachment was perhaps one of the sources of the exaltation which marked her career, and gave many handles to her enemies. The text of the L'Île Rouge is as follows: "If we're to go to the Black Cemetery, brothers, throw on your sister, as a final hope, some red carnations in bloom. In the final days of empire, when the people were awakening, it was your smile, red carnation, which told us that all was being reborn. Today, go blossom in the shadow of the black and sad prisons. Go bloom near the somber captive, and tell him, her truly, that we love him, her. Tell that through fleeting time everything belongs to the future, that the livid-browed conqueror can die more surely than the conquered." In December 1871, she was brought before the Sixth Council of War, charged with offences including trying to overthrow the government, encouraging citizens to arm themselves, and herself using weapons and wearing a military uniform. Defiantly, she vowed never to renounce the Commune, and dared the judges to sentence her to death. Reportedly, Michel told the court, "Since it seems that every heart that beats for freedom has no right to anything but a little slug of lead, I demand my share. If you let me live, I shall never cease to cry for vengeance." Quote, She spent 20 months in prison and was sentenced to deportation. At this time the Versailles press gave her the name La Louve Rouge, La Bonne Louise Deportation. She was loaded onto the ship Virginie on 8 August 1873, to be deported to New Caledonia, where she arrived 4 months later. Whilst on board, she became acquainted with Henry Rochefort, a famous polemicist who became her friend until her death. She also met Nathalie Lemel, another figure active in the Commune. Most likely, it was this latter contact that led Louise to become an anarchist. She remained in New Caledonia for 7 years, refusing special treatment reserved for women. Befriending the local Kanaks, she attempted to educate them and, unlike others in the Commune, took their side in the 1878 Kanak revolt. She is even said to have sent the ringleader of the rebellion a piece of her scar. The following year, she received authorization to become a teacher in Nouméa for the children of the deported, among them many Kabyles from Cake Mokrani's rebellion, and later in schools for girls. Returned to France in 1880, amnesty was granted to the Communards and Michel returned to Paris. Her revolutionary passion undiminished. She gave a public address on the 21st of November, 1880 and continued her revolutionary activity in Europe, attending the Anarchist Congress in London in 1881, where she led demonstrations, spoke to huge crowds, and headed a libertarian school. Whilst in London, she also attended meetings at the Russell Square home of the Pankhursts, where she made a particular impression on a young Sylvia Pankhurst. She travelled throughout France, preaching revolution, and in 1883 she led a Paris mob which pillaged a baker's shop. For this she was condemned to 6 years' imprisonment, but was released in 1886, at the same time as Kropotkin and other prominent anarchists. After a short period of freedom she was again arrested for making inflammatory speeches. She was soon liberated, but, hearing that her enemies hoped to intern her in a lunatic asylum, she fled to England in 1890. She returned to France in 1895, taking part in the agitation provoked by the Dreyfus affair in 1898, and from this time forward, she split up her time between conferences and stays with friends in London. She was stopped many times during demonstrations, and was again incarcerated for 6 years, but eventually freed after 3 years thanks to the intervention of Georges Clemenceau, so that she could see her mother again at the brink of death. She was again incarcerated several times, although for shorter periods of time. During a period of illness she visited Algeria. She was touring France and lecturing on behalf of anarchist causes when she died in room 11, Hotel Oasis, Marseille on January 10, 1905. Her funeral in Paris drew an immense crowd that did not fail to impress contemporaries. Numerous orators spoke. Michel's grave is in the cemetery of Levallois-Perret, in one of the suburbs of Paris. The grave is maintained by the community. This cemetery is also the last resting place of her friend and fellow communard Théophile Ferret. Social legacy. Michel was greatly admired for her association with the Paris Commune. From her death until 1916, a demonstration was held every year at her tomb at Levallois-Perret, a legendary figure of the labor movement. She had the ability of inciting crowds to act. She is often described in language more commonly used for saints and heretics, e.g., Bonne Louise and Vierge Rouge. She was, with George Sand, one of the rare women of the 19th century to have worn male clothing at one stage of her life. Her literary legacy consists of a few theoretical essays and some poems, legends and tales, including some for children. Perhaps the best known of these works is her 1,000-page novel La Miserie, which denounced the social crisis of the suburbs long before it was recognized as a problem. Although primarily remembered for her militant activism, i.e., for her so-called social revolution, her name is frequently given to primary and secondary schools in French towns. She thus has an implicit image in French culture as France's schoolteacher. On May 1, 1946, the Parisian Métro station, Vallier, was renamed Louise Michel. See Louise Michel. In 1975, the courtyard in front of the Basilica of Sacré-Cœur in Montmartre, Paris, was named in Louise Michel's honor. The sign at the gate proclaims her a heroine of the Commune. In 2005, the 100th anniversary of her death was celebrated. During the celebration, 2 seminars paid homage to the Bonne Louise, notably the important March seminar Louise Michel, Figure of Transversality, organized by the Mayor of Paris and the Cultural Association Actazé. This event brought together 22 Louise Michel specialists. Quotes. Michel once joked, "We love to have agents provocateurs in the party, because they always propose the most revolutionary motions." Publications. A Travers la Vie, Poetry, Paris, 1894. Le Bâtard Impérial, by L. Michel and J. Winter, Paris, 1883. Le Claque Dance, Paris. La Commune, Paris, 1898. Comtesse et Legends, Paris, 1884. Les Crimes de l'époque, Nouvelles Inédites, Paris, 1888. Défense de Louise Michel, Bordeaux, 1883. Les Nouvelles Pensées d'un Souvenirs de Calédonie, Paris, 1887. La fille du peuple par L. Michel Emijrp, Paris. Fleurs et Ronces, Poetry, Paris. Le Gazivant, Legend Breton, Paris, 1882. Lectures encyclopédiques par cycles attractifs, Paris, 1888. Ligue internationale des femmes révolutionnaires, appelée Unarchist Union. Signed, Louise Michel, Paris, 1882. Le Livre du Jour de l'An, Historiettes, Comtesse et Legends pour les enfants, Paris, 1872. Lueurs dans l'ombre, Place d'Idiots, Place de l'âme intelligente. L'idée écoutée libre. L'esprit lucide de littérature. Paris, 1861. Manifeste et Proclamation de Louise Michel aux Citoyens de Paris. Signed, Louise Mabel, Paris, 1883. Memoirs, Paris, 1886. T. 1. Les Méprises, Grand Roman de Moeurs Parisienne, par Louise Michel et Jean Gaffrey, Paris, 1882. Les Microbes Humains, Paris, 1886. La Miserie by Louise Michel, second part, and Jean Gaffrey, first part, Paris, 1882. Le Monde Nouveau, Paris, 1888. Louise Michel et Victor Hugo, Lettres de prisonnier du bagne, nous reviendrons sans ombre, Lettres de prisonnier du bagne. Adaptation de Virginie Burling Cole. Scenes intempestives à Grignon, ed. Triartis, Paris 2016, ISBN 9782916724782. Posthumous Volume I. Avant la Commune, preface by Laurent Teilhard, Alfretville, 1905. Les Passants by Louise Michel et Émile Gautier, Paris, incomplete. Prize de Possession, St. Denis, 1890. Le Rive, Paris, 1898. Legends et Chants de Gestes Caniques. Presentation. Gerardo Bellet. Edition 1900. 1988. Je veux écrire de mon nude. Correspondance Générale, 1850–1904. Edition established by Xavier Gauthier. Edition de Paris Max Scheler, 1999. In the press. Michel was often discussed in the French press during her lifetime, as well as the English-language press in Britain and the United States. These are a sample of press caricatures of Michel.